What's up, friends? My name is Josh Helmuth. I am an anchor here at Good Morning Colorado in Colorado Springs. Hope you're well. Wednesday is, of course, a very important day in our nation's history as the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden. And with that is coming, obviously, reports of some possible unrest. Maybe we'll see peaceful protests. Maybe we won't. But either way, FBI reports have shown that we should take Wednesday seriously enough, not just in D.C., but every capital across the country. And so there will be countless journalists on Wednesday covering what may or may not happen during the inauguration or the hours leading up to the inauguration. And I just want to make sure that we all stay safe, that we all have each other's backs, because I know what it's like to be out in situations that could be unsafe. Before I get to the tips I've read, I've taken several notes on my rundown here from this morning. I've read notes from several journalists I respect and organizations I respect on how to stay safe during possible riots or protests. But first, real quick, I just want to explain why it's important. January 6th, the riots at the Capitol. 9 assaults, known assaults on journalists that day. Someone wrote "murder the media" on the Capitol. We've seen threats that were posted on Parler, the social media website, where someone quoted as saying that journalists are easy targets. This just feels different than previous protests. It does feel like the situation could possibly be unsafe if you're not careful. Thankfully, there are thousands upon thousands of National Guard troops in D.C. I'm sure that there will be ramped up law enforcement and possible guardsmen and women at your state capitals as well. But when I was working in Kansas City as a hard news reporter, there was one night we got called out to a scene where there was a shooting. A person still lying in the road passed away from the shooting. Suspect, gunman, still on the loose. My photographer and I, we interviewed I believe it was the police sergeant, someone with KCPD. And the second we get done interviewing him, the camera's still rolling, we hear gunshots behind us, maybe about a block away. If I had to guess, maybe 40, 50 yards away from us. Several gunshots. That's the closest I'd ever been personally to shots being fired during an active crime scene. We left as soon as we could. We got out of there. If any situation feels unsafe, like it's just not right, it's best, obviously, not to stay. Your safety first, story second. That being said, here's how to stay safe the best we can, to have each other's backs during some of these protests, hopefully not riots, this coming Wednesday, or any time of year, any story you're working on, if you happen to see this after January of this year. A lot of these come from Al Tompkins, a very highly respected journalist, someone I respect, who's over at the Poynter Institute right now. Follow police orders, all right? Obviously, you need to keep rolling, do your job, but make sure that you allow law enforcement to do their jobs as well. Don't wear station gear. Don't be all logoed up. Try to dress in plain street clothes. That being said, also don't dress like the protesters as well. You want to make sure that you also carry identification with you. I got something like this right here. Don't put a lanyard around your neck though. Just make sure you have it easily accessible in case someone approaches you who is law enforcement and you need to show people who you are. All right. Also, if you can, try to make sure you have smaller cameras, smaller lights, anything that doesn't bring attention to you as a journalist. Stay on the edge of crowds. Don't be in the middle of a possible unsafe situation. Also, that being said, be situationally aware, all right? Make sure you have an escape route planned no matter where you are at all times in case things get out of control. Stay in teams. Don't work alone. And also make sure that you at least have the conversation on whether or not to hire security. I highly recommend if there's a situation that could become dangerous or unsafe, you have security with you. There should also be that conversation on whether or not they should be armed. And again, safety first, story second. If something feels off, leave. That being said, there are links to all these tips, resources in the description below. I want you to check out Chris Post. He's a photog in Pennsylvania. He had some great advice on how to stay safe in potentially dangerous situations, including advice on how to verbally de-escalate a situation, I highly recommend checking his Twitter posts, giving those recommendations, that advice, those suggestions. Again, links below. And again, links to Al Tompkins' advice below as well. And the biggest thing, keep in contact, constant contact with your manager, whether that be an executive producer or the news director. Keep in constant contact throughout the day. Make sure you're prepared to possibly lose cell phone service. There were times when I would cover some protests. The cell phone towers would be jammed. I wouldn't be able to get through for quite a while. But make sure you do whatever you can to stay in touch with people. And if something doesn't feel right, make sure you feel comfortable leaving or at least retreating for a little bit until things kind of tame down. Again, stay on the edge. Don't be in the middle of the chaos. Just be safe. Have each other's back. Work in teams. If that includes working with a competitor, that's okay. Make sure you work in teams because, again, your safety comes first. Stay safe this Wednesday, guys, or anytime you're covering a serious story, whether that be a possible political unrest or even a peaceful protest. You never know what could happen, and make sure that you just do whatever you can to stay safe. All right, I love you all. I love you all for what you do.